93.9. You might have run into us. So we just like to get to it here. This is Shane Lester, and hello. You want to say
Oh,
hello
hello.
there?
I didn't know
Yeah,
I was ready.
okay. I'm just going to say a little bit of what I know about you. We kind of ran into each other maybe a year and a half ago the first time at
Something about like that.
some open mic in Richmond. I'm thinking was it Rare Old Times probably?
Yeah. It says about getting close to about 2 years ago. It's actually my first open mic or anything to do outside of my house here in Richmond. Uh, the first open mic I went to, I met you and quite a few people I still hang out with.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And I've talked to you a few times, and you've mentioned you grew up in West Virginia.
Yeah. McDowell County, West Virginia. It's I guess more of a mountain place compared to here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's in the Appalachian Mountains. Uh, I lived there. I grew up there until I was about 12, I guess. Then my mom moved out this way, and I've
Oh.
been back and forth. I guess it's been about 15 and almost getting about to be 20 years now.
Oh. Hmm. No. So you grew up there, and how was it there? Is it
It's a beautiful place, but it's to some people, I guess, if you went there, you'd think it was a shithole. It's poor and a lot of falling down buildings and a lot of
right?
trailers in the creeks from all the floods and stuff. But it's honestly my favorite place in the world, and
Oh,
I
cool.
I one day live there again. But I got to make some make some moves out here in the world before I go back to the
Right,
haven.
right. Yeah. You were kind of out on your own at an early age, you've said before.
Oh yeah, I guess between that time, whenever my mom moved up here, I went back to West Virginia and actually for a summer, and just stayed hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
But that was in my 8th grade summer, going into
Oh,
ninth grade.
uh-huh,
And I started ninth grade year in West Virginia at a place called Yeager High School. It got
uh-huh,
destroyed not too long ago, and they
uh-huh.
rebuilt a new school, much nicer school.
Oh, is
It
that
takes
like
if you Google my town, you'll see that it takes up half the town. The school does.
gold does?
it's
Wow.
it made about 50% more of a town whenever it got built. But
Hmm.
yeah, but I went there about 3 months and I decided to move back up here to Richmond for a little while, and I got homeschooled on a something was relatively new back then, but now it's became pretty popular to become homeschooled on the internet. And
Right.
but I did this thing called Penn Foster, which it allowed you to go as fast as you would want to in your classes and
Uh-huh.
complete them as quick as you would want. And I completed them in about 6 to 7 months, and so I
Oh, nice.
graduated with a 3.9, and I got out of Richmond, went back to West Virginia, and I kind of wandered around a while. Being
Mm-hmm.
14, it was a little rough. You couldn't get a job. It's not legal to have a job in most, I guess, in any industry. But
Right.
where I'm from, you can find a lot of under the table things,
Yeah.
and so I would do a lot of under the table things. I finally ended up getting a job through my friend who was much older than me. His dad owned a fencing company, uh,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
I did that for a year or two, and then I decided I could go back and kind of hang out with my dad a little while when I was 17. I went back and I started working for his company. He has a tree cutting company,
Oh,
L&L Tree Service, still in
nice.
good business.
Right.
he uh, he cuts trees and for like the coal companies and stuff.
Right.
I know that's an unpopular thing to some people, but most of the lights kept on around the whole world is by coal, so it
Yeah.
does have to be kept in operation. And my dad plays a big part in that, and in the mountains of
Yeah.
West Virginia and stuff. So did I for a little while, for about 4 years.
Yeah.
I
It's
cut trees and stuff, but I decided to get
man.
out of that when my daughter was born.
When was that?
In 2014 she was born.
Wow.
Uh,
So She is about 9
9.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's getting to be a
you've
grown girl.
taken her to some open mics.
Yeah, you've
Met
seen her
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, she likes to come out to the open mics. She likes to hear the music, but she more likes to just hang out with my friends. And
Oh. So, when did you start writing songs?
I guess I was about 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get grounded a lot.
Right.
So I'd be sitting in my room whenever so like I said, back when I would move back and forth from Richmond to West Virginia with my mom and dad before I graduated school. And
Mm-hmm.
when I would live with my dad, I'd get grounded a lot, which was probably justified. Didn't feel like it back then, and it actually helped me out a lot. I was definitely in my room with nothing to do but a notepad, and I started just writing things. And I didn't have an instrument back then, so I didn't uh, really call them songs or anything. I just wrote things, and every time I'd get grounded, most of the time it'd be for like fighting or dipping
Mm-hmm.
snuff or
Oh,
something like
yeah.
that. I'd be in my room venting out my anger, I guess, in that notepad. But then I got a little older and I got a guitar. My brother gave me a guitar at first, his old guitar that
Mm-hmm.
I think he got it from California. He went for a summer in the state of my aunt, I think is where he stayed, yeah. And he worked for my uncle and ended up buying him a guitar. And he brought it back and he had it for a while, and then he let me borrow it. I guess I still have it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but then I started playing that a little while. I actually kept it around. I just kind of drug it around for about a year. Didn't really
Mm-hmm.
play it much. I just carried it around. If I went in a car, it was in the car.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to explain that, but
No.
I finally eventually started playing it, and I didn't really. I watched my brother play a lot, but he didn't. He taught me G, C,
Uh-huh.
D, and E, I guess, things like that. He just told me those
Mm-hmm.
things, and then from there on, I really just messed around and figured out the rest, and or watching him, and he's
Right.
actually a very good musician. I wish I could maybe introduce you guys to him one day
Yeah.
if he does decide to come out and play. Um, yeah, he really introduced me to music and
Mm-hmm.
all together. I'd
Yeah.
probably be listening to. I don't want to down anybody's music, but I probably wouldn't be listening to very good music if it wasn't for him when I was younger, showing me Bob Dylan and
Right.
Kings
Right.
of Leon and
Yeah.
Modest Mouse and all these
Yeah.
things, Rolling Stones and all the good bands from back in the day too.
All right. Nice. Nice.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you'd want me to say this, but during that song, uh, I didn't realize on the radio you couldn't cuss, so Roger had to warn me on a little notepad that I wasn't supposed to cuss. So I had to correct myself in that song. I kind of forgot I said more cuss words than I actually did.
That's all right. That's okay. You didn't know, and I've cursed on the air before once, a few times by accident. And the
I,
guest, I had told them not to curse, and they're like, "We know that, Roger. We know. We're professional." And then I got all into.
well, I'm not professional.
I
I don't guess.
I was all into talking about how I was not happy about comedy, the comedy scene, and open mics, and I was the one that said that. So, but we're
You
all
get a little
good
riled up
here.
over the comedy scene, and
Yeah, it's like that stupid S is not. It's not fair how they do that, and like
you've been going to any thing around Richmond in the comedy scene, at the open mics and stuff.
not lately. I know a few of the hosts, and they have different shows and open mics, just like our music ones we have, and they kind of come and go, and they kind of quicker than our music ones. Kind of, it's a
Yeah.
more competitive thing, I guess you could say, and you have to show that you're making the place money or that enough comedians or performers are going, and if not,
It's
they
hard to
get
pretend to be funny. You can
yeah,
pretend to be a musician
yeah, yeah.
for
That's
three
very
songs,
good
but
point. Yeah, it's hard, and glad to be a musician personally. Can be a funny musician, It can also be a serious one. And that was that was a really cool song.
Well, I
Could
appreciate
relate.
it. I don't know if that was actually any bit good for the radio, but I'll try
No,
to. I don't think my other songs I plan to play today is a
provocative.
provocative.
No,
Yeah, a little stutter there.
no, that's a real situation. Of course, we've all heard about the opioid epidemics and the fentanyl,
I
and
guess that is making its way around there too. I
yeah,
haven't kind of blows my mind that kind of stuff is it's really things like meth that
mm-hmm,
uh ruined my generation of people.
mm-hmm,
Whenever I hear about friends and stuff, it's a
yeah,
lot to do with meth. I guess it's easy to make, easy to find, cheap.
yeah. And there was a series on streaming a few, I guess a year or two ago now. Dope Sick
Yeah, I didn't
was
watch that, but I'd seen some things about it on YouTube. I kind
yeah,
of would kind of like to watch it, but to be honest, maybe they do. Maybe it's a good thing. It's getting the word out and stuff. But
yeah,
it's kind of funny to me when Hollywood people make millions off of things, tragedies of normal people, and
right,
watching it kind of just. I started to watch it because was it
yeah.
on Hulu or
I think,
I think it
yeah,
was. Yeah, I started to watch it and then I just couldn't really. I felt kind of
yeah,
guilty to watch it. It's kind of like taking advantage of the
yeah,
situation I lived through. So
yeah. And you lived through it. I mean, that is one of the biggest, or it was the worst parts of the whole opioid epidemic was that area. And I just found it interesting from a uninformed observer myself. I've never seen that, but the coal mines played a part in that because the main character, she was injured working in the coal mines at a young age, and
yeah.
then she got prescribed the opioids, and then she got addicted and went on to all that other stuff. And
Well, I might just be being uptight about it. Really, I mean, it might be great that they made a show about it. I truly don't
yeah,
know.
we don't
Uh,
know.
if it did, it does seem like in the last couple years people have become more aware of such
Yeah,
things. But
yeah,
I don't know how much it's helping because fentanyl's taking over the world. It seems like
yeah, and that
that
is,
might just be more news getting into everybody's head just to make everybody frantic and stuff like
yeah. However you look at it, not good. There's corruption involved in all these things on some level. And
I
that was more what it was about. I mean, it was about the personal story of the main character, the addicts, and then the doctor that got in trouble. It's a true story. And then the lawyers that sued, well, the FBI or one of those groups. I think it was the Bureau of Tobacco and Firearms, ATF. Is that what that is? I don't know. Not an
I
expert
would,
at it, but the government, they investigated and finally they won somewhat and started suing the drug companies with it. So I don't know.
I guess it's good in the
Yeah,
end, but
good in the end, but yeah.
it's kind of allowed by the government in the first place. But all right.
Yeah. Yep. And so let's go back to my notes that I thoroughly took myself. Yes, I have I really did a lot of research on here. As you can tell, I'm really super prepared. I'm looking at my notes.
Probably makes it very easy where my name's all over the place on the
Yeah.
internet, and I'm very famous and
Oh
got all the
yeah,
magazines you could research and
yeah. I
stuff.
saw Time magazine, the Shane Lester edition.
Songwriter from McDowell County
Yeah.
on the front page.
Let's see. So you were saying you had some inspirations and like musicians you admired and kind of
Uh,
inspired by, maybe.
a lot of people around here have heard me talk about Bob Dylan and stuff. I guess
Mm-hmm.
when I first came out, and people were asking me, "Well, who do you like?" I would say Bob Dylan every time they would ask me, and he is a very
Right.
big inspiration. But he's not the only
Right.
inspiration,
Right.
and I mean, I guess I used to idolize him, and maybe still do, but I try not to because
Yeah.
I don't think it's good to idolize people
Yeah.
to that extent
Yeah.
anyway. At least that's a lesson my brother's trying to teach me my whole life. But
Hmm.
uh, Bob Dylan was definitely a big inspiration, and Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse. He's
Hmm.
As I got older and older, he was definitely one of the biggest inspirations because he's still around doing it. Like the things
Right.
he was doing, I was kind of getting to live through some of it
Right.
because I was
Right.
born in the '90s. I was a little late for some of it, but
Yeah.
kind of feels more of like my generation. So
Right.
I did take a lot of inspiration from him, but really his lyrics. I mean, even if he was from, I don't. It doesn't matter what time period he was from. His lyrics are just uh,
Yeah.
the things that inspire me the most. And the band Modest Mouse is a great band, but without
Hmm.
the lyrics, I wouldn't. Uh, it's really any band or any musician I listen to. I really want to hear the lyrics.
Right.
I love music. It has to be good music. I'm sure I couldn't just
Hmm.
listen to good lyrics without good music. I don't think that would work.
Yeah.
But uh, when I was a kid, it was a lot of people like Johnny Cash and stuff.
Hmm.
Still, Bob Dylan back then was definitely a big part, and
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix and stuff. I guess
Right.
that
Right.
he made. I really wasn't inspired to play the type of music he played, but he made me. He's one of the people I do remember making me want to play a guitar,
Right.
and that's I guess one of the biggest inspirations you could ask for
Yeah.
as a musician. But uh, really, my inspirations mostly come from people that I know, and like my
Hmm.
brother that I keep talking about. His name's Michael. I don't know if you want me to say that, but
Oh, well, please.
he
Yeah.
the one that taught me about music and stuff. He's definitely my biggest inspiration for music. Uh,
And he's one of. Do you have more than one brother or sister?
I have 7 brothers. One of those is a stepbrother, but I count him. He's been around since
Okay.
he's 4, so
Right.
yeah. Uh, but 3 of those came from my dad and his new wife, and
Uh huh.
uh, they're a lot younger than me.
Oh. Okay.
2 of them are twins. They're the same age as my daughter. They're 9. I think their
Wow.
birthday's in February. They'll
Uh
be
huh.
10.
Wow.
Uh, they're very cool kids. They're a little strange. Some people don't understand them too much. As twins, they automatically get some people weirded out
Right.
before they even
Yeah.
speak.
Right.
But I think they're very smart, and I think they'll uh, grow up to be great kids. Uh,
Cool.
but
Yeah. They're the youngest, and then there's some older
oh,
ones in the
yeah, there's
middle.
I think he's about 12 now.
Hmm.
He was my first baby brother, and uh, I always wanted a little brother or any little sibling. I was always the youngest out of all of us until I was grown, and these new bunches started coming around.
Right.
But uh, I get to see him pretty often, I guess. Him and the twins, they live at my dad's house in West Virginia.
Oh.
Where I'm from, he still lives in the same house we grew up in, so they're growing
Wow.
up in the same place.
Uh huh.
And I get to see them most of the time just in the summer. I don't really go that often in the wintertime.
Yeah. Right. And your older brothers, you see them still?
Every once in a couple of years, I guess. Some of them,
Mm.
the one of them still lives in West Virginia, so I get to see him anytime I go in. Sometimes I work with him.
Uh-huh.
I still work for my dad, and he works
Yeah.
for my dad. He's kind of I'm thinking he's looking to take over the business one day,
Right.
which is
Right.
perfectly it makes sense because it seems like the direction he was going in his whole life. Him and dad
Yeah.
were always always together,
Hmm.
and they always had a great relationship, and they both were very hard workers. So
Uh-huh. It
uh,
is 5:26 here on our Work FM, if you're wondering, and that's who you're listening to. Me, your quirky host, Roger, and I appreciate you all at the Work FM allowing me to do this, especially Ron Skinner and Lee, who has a few monikers, but Lee is the one that creates the loops here and the programming, all the things that when we're not live on the air in person, we play these loops of things he finds on different sources and puts together. So Lee is actually tuning in now, and he was asking, do you have any bluegrass influences?
uh, yeah, definitely. So in West Virginia, the part of West Virginia I'm from, we do these things called horse shows. It's not like showing off pretty horses. I guess there are some pretty horses there, but we do these races. It's called standardbred pacing horses. They they do a style of running called pacing, and they go about anywhere from 25 to the most I've seen was 33. A horse we used to have, my dad used to have, named Hillbilly. He went about 33 miles per hour, and I mean that's quite a ride. I used to ride him when I was about 9 years old, and people would tell my dad, "You shouldn't let that man. I mean, you shouldn't let that boy ride that stud horse because it's so fast and wild." But I was trained pretty well. I rode a lot of ponies, and I wasn't properly trained. There's no trainers in the mountains, but I trained myself on a lot of ponies, so I could ride some pretty big horses. And so when you're going around there in the horse ring, there's a lot of bluegrass music playing. It's always bluegrass music, like Lester Flats and stuff like that. I would say I know more bluegrass songs that I don't know the name of because of that than any other type of music, but it definitely plays a big part. So my grandpa, he owned the horse ring that we do the horse shows at. My dad now owns it, but he would do bluegrass festivals, and he tried to make it popular and stuff. It didn't really take off. People around my town didn't really do things like that. I now do festivals there, and it's getting better, but it's hard to get people to come out, for music around there. But yeah, it's definitely a big influence.
Yeah, and that's a Martin, isn't it? Martin.
Yeah, gotta forget what. A DX1.
Oh, I think I had one like that.
I think it costs about $600, but that's about the range I like.
Yeah, I had that type of model. It has a built-in tuner and pickup and amplifier, I guess, in it, but it's not like the 12, 13, it can go up astronomically, but for me it was like, okay, it has the sound of a Martin, it has the look, the name Martin's on it, so that's good enough for me. So, sounds good though. It's a good guitar, well made.
Yeah, I like it. I wouldn't mind having one of those. I don't know, I guess you in like a $3,000 price range or something.
Yeah, but then of course if you drop it, then you're up doo-doo creek with that.
Really, I'd hate to betray this guitar. It's been through so much with me. I wouldn't want to leave it laying in a corner. And I wouldn't want to leave $3,000 sitting in a corner, so it'd be hard to choose.
Right.
I know I have plenty of time to play both, but
yeah. All right.
That style's very hard
to here.
Thank you. That style's very hard to play sitting down.
Really?
Even at the house, I don't sit down and play. I always stand up. Maybe why I have such shoulder pain.
Wow. We'll have to make that an option later. Station. We haven't set it up for that, but we could.
And I wasn't saying that.
No.
I think it's good to be able to be forced to, deal with the situation as it is.
Right. I'm just saying, a lot of people do like to play standing up only or sitting down. I like sitting down when I'm playing acoustic, at least.
Yeah.
Because I just got used to that.
I guess when you play electric, like in a band setting, you don't really want to sit down.
Right.
I mean, I guess you can, but
yeah, that's different. Yeah, then you stand, or I would stand.
Yeah, I think the last time I seen you play, you were doing some electric stuff. You were standing. You were sounding good, man. I don't know if I'd seen you play electric like that, or because you weren't singing at all. I guess you were being the lead.
Right. I get to do that. You mentioned earlier, kind of getting through high school on your own online in 1 year. 6 months you did the whole
about
thing?
6 or 7 months, I would say. Something like that.
Really cool.
It was it felt really strange to be able to do it. My family, other than my mom, who was the one that found out that I could do it and paid for it, I think she had to pay quite a few dollars to actually
Right.
let me do it. But my dad and other brothers, not the one that I related to with music a lot, because he actually did it too. He did it before I did, and that's how I.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
actually I kind of forgot that, but he did it before me. Then that's how I ended up knowing about it. Then I did it, and he actually kind of did similar. very We had a very similar life. I don't think I was copying him, honestly. It kind of just played out that way.
Right.
But my family didn't really think it was the best idea. They thought it was kind of like dropping out of school
Yeah.
and doing this fake online thing, getting some fake diploma. But it was not a fake diploma. Now it's my brother. I think like 3 years later, my brother's girlfriend ended up doing the
Mhm.
same thing that I did, and
Right.
so they were all eventually okay with it and understood that it was all right. But at first, I was pretty ridiculed about it, I guess.
Mm.
But I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. No, I
it
mean, they didn't have that when I was young, but now that's like a big thing. Homeschools kids and
well, I can understand why.
accelerated and yeah.
I can understand why it's like some people think it'd be an issue with the socializing. Kids don't get to socialize, and
Right.
I do 100% agree. If a kid's staying in the house all the time, being homeschooled, and the kid never goes out and interacts with anybody, probably not the best thing in the world for them.
Hmm.
But if you homeschool a kid and you make sure they go out and socialize and have friends and
Yeah.
uh, put them in scenarios where they have to grow
Yeah.
and become mature, I think they'll
Yeah.
be fine and maybe better off. Because a lot of my issues as a kid was because I wanted in school, I wanted to make everybody laugh and do things like that. So
Yeah.
I got in a lot of trouble. But I
Right.
made straight A's, so I uh, I would get done with my work and then talk, and I would think
Yeah.
that was all right, and I still think it's all right because I don't
Right.
think you should be in a room for 8 hours being quiet. I think that's
Yeah.
silly. I don't want my
Yeah.
kid in a room being quiet for 8 hours.
Well, it's a different option, and I've thought about it. Maybe that would have worked better for me because I was a similar
Well,
situation,
well,
and
did you not enjoy school too much?
it was okay. It was all right. They just didn't have that. You either were in school or
He
you're
quit.
out of school.
Yeah, my dad.
There was no option to go, oh, I'm going to take this online. Well, of course, we didn't have the internet then either,
Yeah.
but it still wouldn't have been like an option. They would have been like, you either are in school or you're not. You're not, there's no home, that was like playing hooky or being sick or,
Did you
couldn't
skip
do
school a
that.
lot?
I didn't. I did
Oh, you
pretty
didn't?
good. Did pretty well in school. But
I
I'm just saying, if that had been an option, like not having to get up and go on a bus at like 7 in the morning and staying at this place for until 3 o'clock and then
Yeah.
staying over after to do athletic stuff or
That's the
after
only thing
school
you miss
stuff.
if your parents don't like make sure you go get to play
Yeah.
baseball or anything. Because I didn't
But
miss playing sports.
But I think they do that now. Like
Yeah,
they allow the kids, they can be homeschooled
Yeah, you
through
get-
the school and then go play the sports and be in those activities now. So
Yeah, it's a lot more options
supportive
these days. Yeah.
options, yeah. So I could definitely, and we like the music here at the work and especially what you're doing, but a lot of things, you have a lot of good stories to tell here. So I mean, you already kind of said it, but you sounds like you were on your own a lot early on after
Yeah,
getting through the school so quickly.
You'd like a little
for
juiciness
work.
from that?
Yeah, let us know.
Oh well, I guess some of the highlights of that time period, other than uh, trying to survive, I did have to go hungry quite a bit to be out there, but it was by choice. I mean, I could have went. My dad was 45 minutes away from where I was. I mean, I could have went to his house at any time and he would have fed me. It wasn't anything like I had to be there, but I wanted to be there. I wanted to go out and live because I knew by the time I got to be a real adult, I would have to do everything I'm supposed to do. But if I'm a child living like an adult, I can neglect a lot of things, and if I can survive, I can be okay. I can live a lot of experiences that I would never get to live if I wasn't doing that. And it was. I'm very lucky, I guess, that I have the mind that didn't want to get on pills and meth or anything like that. I don't know why I had that. I think it really has to do with how I was raised and who raised me. And
did a lot of people from high school or middle school, they get into drugs and
well,
tragedies?
I'll give you like one little, this is a little taste of what it was like in a class in my school. So this one class I was in, there was this girl, I wouldn't mention her name ever, but she pulls out some kind of pill. I really don't know that much about pills. I mean, I know if you say words about them, I know what it means, but I don't know what they look like. I don't know which ones are which. But she pulls out some kind of pill and lays it on the table and crunches it up in the middle of class while the teacher's sitting there doing class, and wasn't hiding it very much at all, and just snorts it, and lots of things like that would happen. But a real good buddy of mine that I was hanging out with a lot during that time, and he actually was homeless himself, and I would help him out as much as I could, while I was also younger than him, helping myself out. And but he ended up kind of going around some bad stuff for a while. But it's good to see that actually I'm not going to mention his name, but in the last year or two, he's been looking like he's doing pretty good, which is very rare because I have a lot of friends that I did care about, and I guess I still do, that once they started it, they've never come back, and most of them are dead. Most of them are in jail, or very rarely one of them starts to look healthy on his Facebook pictures. And
I mean, you wouldn't say in any negative way at all, but here, from what I've experienced with people in addiction and in my own life, it's like we have, it is an addiction, but it's sort of a choice.
Well, I will definitely agree that it's
maybe where you were from, it was not so much a choice.
I agree that it's a choice to ever start it, but I don't know how much of a choice after you start it, because I didn't start it. I had many times when people would be, so I would hang out with my friends, even though they would do a friend, and I would just say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I would be in situations where one of my best buddies, I'm not going to mention his name, but he's dead now, and he was standing beside me. And the first time I ever knew that he was doing anything like that, this guy that we knew growing up, he's much older than us, he turns around and has a pill in his hand. I think it was a Xanax.
Right.
And he reaches it and he looks at me and he says, "Oh, I only got one. You want me to cut it in half for y'all?" And I said, "No, I don't want none of that." And I watch him reach it to my buddy that I grew up with, and my buddy takes it, and that was really the beginning of the end of him. And
That's too bad.
But there was
no matter what, once you take it, you're most likely in trouble, I would say. Some people, it's different. This is all controversial. If we had 1 million listeners right now, I'd be getting hundreds of thousands of unlikes and nasty comments because I'm not an expert, but I just
I'm no expert either.
Can't relate totally to that because I'm not in that culture. For me, was something I would have had to seek out, and then, but luckily I didn't and you didn't, so we survived, and here we are on this fun radio station playing and listening to songs. So we're kind of winding down here, and so could play one or two more songs. As I say on here as a joke, but seriously, I'm inwardly really excited and enjoying this. It looks like I'm bored or sound bored or tired, but this is really cool.
Well, he sees my music a lot, so I wouldn't be too offended if he wasn't that excited.
No, it is. It's really cool. to have you on here. You among all these people that I've been lucky to meet and get to interview and listen to and jam with or hang out with. So just just let's hear some other songs.
Well, I want to say this real quick though.
Yeah.
During that period of time, a lot of crazy things happened that I'm not sure I want to talk about on a
Right.
podcast.
Right.
Some things might not be I really shouldn't talk about on a podcast.
Right.
So when you asked me to go a little deeper into that, I tried, but it's hard to beat around those memories because the ones that I shouldn't talk about are the first ones that come to mind. You
Yeah.
know,
And you could put this in your book when you write your memoirs. Any of the stuff
there's a lot
that
of.
he doesn't want to say now.
I'm either right.
In the Shane Lester story in a few years, perhaps.
I think I'll have to write that and then die and then release it because might not go over so well. Too many crazy things. Not that I did anything. I didn't kill nobody or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, I'll play one more. Maybe
Okay,
talk a
great.
little bit and wrap it up. I think it's about time, right?
Yeah. Nice. No, I like that. Kind of a different style, and you went into this kind of different singing in the chorus, like a vibrato-y, totally different thing there.
Thank
How
you.
would
Man.
you describe that? Because it was like totally different than your other singing.
I think that comes more from the time I spent listening to things like the Beatles, which most people find that being. I don't even know if that's anything to do with the Beatles, but like the Beatles and more of like a poppy type music, other than the old country and bluegrass and folk and
a melodic kind of crooning, they might call it. Kind of
yeah,
like Elvis, the Beatles.
Yeah. And then that mixed with, I guess, whatever other style I have inside my brain comes out as those things. I truly don't put too much thought into what I do because I'm trying to come with terms whether it's true or not. But I do think if you mess with something too much, you'll mess it up.
Right.
But if you don't mess with it enough, it might never become truly what it could be. So, and I don't think I was ever. A lot of times I would write a song and just never touch it again. And I think you could kind of touch it up and make it better. And I wouldn't do that. And I think I could even still do that a little more, but something I have to learn.
Right. Well, whatever works, and it works.
I hope it works. You never know if it works.
Right.
People keep telling me it works. Some people, anyway.